this time.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Nerds of the North podcast, episode number 35. 35 episodes. We're starting off the new year strong with the second episode that we will be, second episode we're recording? Yeah, I think so. But anyway, I'm host number one, as always, Matt, and joining me as always is host number two,
Nick.
And today we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, the fourth episode that came out. And in addition to that, we don't know what the hell else we're going to talk about. There's some rumblings of Peacemaker that Nick can discuss. I haven't watched any episodes yet. We've also dabbled. I know we talked about last week talking about IGN's top 100 games of all time. Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we won't. Who knows? We're just going to spitball it here.
Yeah.
But,
and we're also for sure going to talk about our childhood crushes. Specifically
cinematically speaking.
Yeah. They can be fictional or celebrity.
But on that note, so I guess Boba Fett, we'll start there. Just kind of work our way out. So Nick, what did you think of the fourth episode? Do you have any strong opinions one way or the other?
I've liked this show since the beginning. It seems it gets so much hate every time I log on to Facebook, which I shouldn't do, but I do. All I see is hate articles on the show, and I don't get it. It's trying to dredge up controversy where I don't think it needs it, really. I think it's a perfectly fine show. I mean, it's not rocking my world or anything, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm perfectly willing to let it play out and see how it ends. I think after this episode, we're done with the flashbacks, it would seem or appear. So
yeah,
I'm kind of thinking that they might go off world. They're definitely going to bring in Din Djarin, it seems, just based on that thematic note at the end of the episode. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it kind of seems like we're gonna be Mando is hopefully going to be making an appearance for one reason or another.
Yeah, bringing in some muscle, which is weird in a way that what's her name brought it up, Fennec Shand. I would think that would be more Boba Fett's idea, but
right. Well, and I mean, it makes sense too, because I mean, when you think about it, Mando is now a free agent. You know, he's no longer got the child to look after. Luke saw to that, and so we're now.
But he does have a dark saber.
Yeah, he has a dark saber now, so maybe there's going to be some questions answered about what the hell's going on with that. Because I mean, technically speaking, he's now the ruler of Mandalore, but like whatever that means, you know. So I am curious to see what they do with that, and I'm excited to see him.
It definitely feels. Oh, sorry.
No, I will say that I've enjoyed Boba Fett a lot. I will say, however, though, that the music from Mandalorian hits me different than it has in Boba so far. The music's still good, but like the Mandalorian soundtrack, just like I got so hyped every time I heard that music. Boba Fett, not so much. I find it's very thematically appropriate, and I still like it. But anyway, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that the show definitely feels like it's building into Mando season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of a launching pad to maybe something that's going to go down in that season. So I think there's a connective tissue going on here in what some like to call the Filoni-verse, and others like to call the Mando-verse. I don't know. I kind of like. I don't know which one I like better.
I mean, we don't call it the Feige-verse. We call it the MCU. And so I think Mandoverse, although it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, I think works a little bit better.
Yeah, I kind of like Filoniverse just because I think it's weird.
But that being said, yeah, I know that as I was telling you, Nick, before we started, my wife has been kind of on the fence about Boba Fett. She has found herself being a little burned out on Star Wars, mostly just from a quality perspective, I think, for her anyway. Which we'll try not to get into that conversation for like the millionth time. But but this fourth episode is what really drew her in. So I guess having a connecting thread to the Mandalorian, maybe, or something about, just there being a mission now, like an upcoming battle, something to prepare for, is something that is what she needed for her interest to be piqued. I was really pleasantly surprised at them. I didn't think the flashbacks were going to end so soon. I feel like we were just like getting a taste of like what Boba Fett was about before the show started, really, and what it was like for him post Sarlacc pit. And but my questions were answered in terms of the back to tank. Like, essentially, he was just healing his wounds from having been like ravaged by the desert, both by spending time with the Tuskens and with being in the pit. So I was thinking, like, is there some crazy thing? Like, does Boba have space cancer, whatever that would be?
Yeah, I do like the Sarlacc pit scene. I know that some people were saying that the physics of what was going on there didn't really quite make sense with how the ship is actually set up with the propulsion being on the back of it. Like, you think descending
I had that
into
same thought, actually.
like, how is it going to come back up? But the one thing I was thinking, the whole scene that was going on, was that CGI like beak that George Lucas added in to the original trilogy.
Oh,
it wasn't
really?
there originally, and I'm like, oh, did they take that out? Is that like not cool anymore to have that CGI beak? Are we not going to reference the CGI beak from the updated Star Wars movies?
Yeah, the vastly improved.
Yeah, but then they actually did bring back the beak and made it really kind of terrifying. So I was pleasantly surprised there, for sure. And whenever they bring out those sonic bombs or whatever the heck those are, I'm always like, it's like really exciting. I love like the delay and
right.
just,
so
it's very
cool.
satisfying. Very satisfying.
Yeah, that whole episode had a lot of really cool things. What with like where we learning about like how Fennec and Boba met officially, and then getting to see the Slave One in action,
which they never called it that by name.
No, they did not. Which I kind of wonder.
No, there's controversy about that, actually. Have you not heard the controversy?
Well, I mean, I can imagine what it is based off the name, but pray tell.
Well, I think it was a year or so ago, Lego was releasing a Boba Fett set with the Slave One in it, but they didn't call it that anymore. And so people were up in arms. The internet threw their collective arms up and said, is Disney being PC here and they're not going to use the name of the ship anymore? And so, people are really wondering if they were going to call it that in the show. And of course they didn't call it. He didn't call it the Slave One. He called it the type of aircraft it was, which was, I think, like the Fire Spray or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does kind of seem like they're not going to go that way, but, which is interesting because slaves are actually in the Star Wars universe kind of a big deal. Anakin was a slave in episode 1. I mean, it's very big on the slavery.
It's very forward facing, like the conversation about like, is slavery thing in Star Wars? Absolutely.
I mean, it was big. They don't really bring it up that much for probably reasons, that there's slaves in the Star Wars universe. I think they do it more often on the Clone Wars TV show, but in general, it's not a really big thing that gets brought up. That'll be kind of interesting.
I mean,
explore that a little bit more, maybe, but
I think it stands to reason, like, not that it's justified in any kind of way, but it stands to reason that it would be a problem, right? Like, especially like in a post Empire world, you have the Republic seemingly probably trying to like gain control of as many systems as possible or to bring order. And you have these planets that are like way out far away that can't necessarily be handled very easily. And what are they going to do? Oh, we really want to build stuff, but you know, I don't really know anything about building things. What do you think we should do? It's like, oh, we can just force other people to do it because we're evil. You know, like
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you could also make the case that the clone troopers were slaves. And I have heard that the name Slave One could be kind of taken as sort of I can't think of the term, like a double entendre sort of thing, where like the Slave One, you know, like it's like instead of the number one, it's WON, like a verb.
Oh, sure.
Like Slave One. So.
Well, and if you're taking clone troopers in particular to be that way, it would kind of make sense that the original owner of the ship was technically clone trooper one, Django. So slave one, if you're going to be making that comparison. So, I mean, that holds some water. It's leaky, but it holds some water. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the origins behind the name. It probably was originally chosen just because it maybe sounds kind of cool, like noun plus number. But because I don't think there's really that many other ships that are named that way in Star Wars. You have the Millennium Falcon, but no numbers there. X-Wings, Y-Wings, you have all the letter designations of those ships. And like Corellian class vessels, Star Destroyers, Super Star Destroyers, like that type of thing. But nothing's ever really... Yeah, it's like there's not really a whole lot of other ships that are named so specifically, because yeah, he brought up it was named after it, like by its class of ship. Yeah, what was it? What was the name of Mando's ship? That was the
crud. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Shoot, I want to say Silver something.
Yeah, I think it was the Lady Killer. Killer?
The Razor Crest.
Sorry.
The Lady Killer. Yeah, like I really like the Razor Crest, and as far as I'm aware, the Razor Crest is the name of the ship. It's not a like necessarily a like designation of ship. You know, like you call an X-wing because it's an X-wing.
No, I think you're right. I think the Razor Crest too sort of reminds me of, if I'm remembering correctly, it looks sort of like those ships from the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, actually you're right. I was going to say it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Firefly. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Like from the TV show?
Correct. The Serenity. It's those big cylindrical like engine pieces.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I never really cared for Firefly that much. I know maybe sacrilegious to everyone, but I kind of feel justified in my dislike of it now that everyone's turned against Joss Whedon. We could talk about that. He came out and started talking up trash again, or just talking smack.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, are you curious? Before we get into that, I just wanted to say a few more things on Mando. I do really like that they brought Kirstansson back, or Kirstansson. I can't ever say that name right. Kirstansson, the Wookiee who pulled off the Trashadan or whatever that alien's arm. That was great.
I mean, we could have seen that coming from a mile away, right? Like he has nothing to do now other than work for Boba. Like,
yeah, but I'm glad they brought him back. I'm glad that.
Oh, I'm glad too. It's super cool.
Yeah, I'm glad that the Boba actually went back and massacred that gang of bikers, because they were having some criticism that Boba was being kind of a little too friendly, too nice, some might say. a little
I mean,
bit.
I wouldn't say he's necessarily been too nice. He like that group of biker gang, not biker gang, but moped gang people that the internet seem to fucking hate so much. Like he didn't just let them leave. He was like, "Oh, you stole that water, but it was kind of justified." Yeah, all right. He was like, "Okay, fine. You want a fucking job? You're working for me now. Get your ass back to my place." And like, you know, like a true, paragon type would have been like, "Oh yes, go on your merry way," you know. But no, he's like, "Bitch, you're coming with me." Like,
Yeah. And I guess just to finish up my thoughts here beyond that, because I don't know how much more I have to say on this, is I guess predictions for next week. It does seem to me that I was gonna say Mando, Boba, or perhaps Fennec leave Tatooine perhaps next episode and go recruiting, which is kind
maybe.
of exciting to think about. And it seems that we're gonna get some cameos coming up, which I'm excited about. Not just Din. I'm hoping that they bring in some of the bounty hunters from other TV shows and movies. So I'm excited to see that. And hopefully I'm in a big old mafia battle between the two Dawns. And I do hope they bring in Crimson Dawn. Yeah, Crimson. Which hopefully will be run by Kira and have some connections to Maul. So there you go. That's what I'm hoping for. I could do without a Han Solo cameo though, I think.
I mean, I guess I could see it happening. It does make some level of sense for him to show up because of the fact that like it's before he dies in the sequel trilogy, and he's still involved with Leia and Luke at this juncture, but his debts to Jabba are more or less gone. So he does have some reason to return to Tatooine, or at least not to fear returning to Tatooine. So, but
yeah, I think for me the de-aging technology just isn't quite there for me where I would be completely.
I don't even think they would do the de-aging. I'd kind of wonder if they'd just bring the actor who played Han in Solo.
That'd be so weird though, dude, because like we've seen he was like from the past, so they're gonna bring in the future Han Solo played by a different actor. I don't know. I just don't like that idea. It just kind of hurts my head.
I mean,
Because
and
we
what
know
they
what
could
we
do,
know what a young Harrison Ford looks like, and I think his name was Adrian something, who played a younger version of him. So they'd have like the younger version, then we had Harrison Ford, and then we're going back to the younger version again.
and well, and they could do a combination. They could use him as the frame and then apply essentially whatever CGI magic to make him look more like Harrison. I mean, they did cast him as for a reason. You know, he does bear a resemblance to a young Harrison. That's why Jesus was a good person.
Sorry about that, everyone. There was a brief pause. We're back now, though. I think we kind of finished up our thoughts on that anyway. So we're ready to move on.
Boba Fett, good. Internet, pouty. Moving on. Yeah, so okay, you wanted to talk a little bit about Peacemaker. So I guess
yeah. I see your dog, I see Ramona. Okay, here's what my thoughts on Peacemaker are.
Sure.
It's funny. It's well done.
Mm-hmm. Funny, well done show. I like that. Yeah,
I'm just gonna leave it quiet, dead air. I mean, I don't really have a lot to say on it, to be honest with you. It's fine. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really to theorize about. I mean, and I don't really want to spoil it for you either. But even if you had seen it, I think you kind of have the same opinion where you're like, "Oh yeah, it's funny. It's good."
I mean, am I correct in assuming? I mean, I think so, that this is DC's first foray into a TV show that's set within kind of this like Suicide Squad verse that now exists.
You're such a ham. I mean, yes, for sure on the Suicide Squad thing. I was just thinking, is it the first TV show that they've done that's actually set within the DC like movie universe? And I kind of think that it is, right?
Yeah, I don't think there hasn't been anything with Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, or Aquaman, with like maybe a few. I guess there's like the cartoon that Aquaman had, but like that was very niche and very specific. Ramona, oh my goodness, this is why I don't let you in here when I'm recording.
Yeah. I don't know. I know there is. I just don't really have that much to say about the DC movie universe. I'm just not that invested in it. So
No, I don't think DC is either.
they aren't either. I mean, I know there's like a whole thing with the new Flash movie, gonna retcon a bunch of stuff, but I just can't seem to care that much. I did like Zack Snyder's, cut of the Justice League, but I'm not gonna die on that hill where I really care all that much. So
I make no qualms about saying that the Snyder cut is what we should have seen originally. It's still a bad movie. It just is. Like, it's a lot better than the theatrical release that we got.
it's also 4 hours long.
See, but like if I'm invested in a property, I'm going to watch a 4-hour movie. I don't care
Well,
if
I mean,
it's 6 hours.
I would at home when I did, but that'd be kind of a hard sell for me to go to a movie theater and sit there for 4 hours, especially for a universe that I'm not particularly invested in. So, and I also think you have to think of the economics of it too, with how often a movie theater can play a 4-hour movie. So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm willing to sit down, and I really love going to movie theaters, so I'm not necessarily one to shy away from that. Even if it was going to be a longer experience.
that's what she said.
Hey, you never to me. But but yeah, like I just I love movies, and I love the experience of watching movies, especially one that I'm excited for. And so like Snyder cut, or like it made me excited in a way that I haven't been excited for any of the other DC movies. So it was a very easy sell. If I had to go to a movie theater to watch that, I probably would be seeing it by myself, because I don't know if my wife would be able to handle sitting down for 4 hours during that slog. But yeah, like that was the version of the movie that I think should have been released. That's what we should have seen to begin with, because it really made the movie make a lot more sense and just kind of seem more cohesive.
I mean, it was definitely better. I'm just gonna say that I think they should bring back intermissions into movies, especially long ones
Sure.
in the movie theater.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like a 2-hour movie, you don't need an intermission. Just sit down, watch the 2-hour film, whatever. And but when it comes to like your 3-hour plus movies, yeah, like throw in an intermission at like an hour and a half. It's good for bathroom breaks, get refills on drinks.
I wish more movies were just an hour and a half, to be honest with you. Unless it's
A
like
lot
a
of-
huge event like that I'm super excited about, then I'll be down for like a 3-hour film, like maybe like a Spider-Man or a Avengers movie. But most movies do not need to be 2 hours long. Like I don't need like a 2.5 hour Aquaman film or a 2.5 hour like Kingsman movie or something. I'm sorry.
I think, well, no, like I think
Sorry,
lot of-
not sorry.
well, a lot of movies are just long because there's a lot of really unnecessary scenes added in. And I can't really tell you a good example of one like off the top of my head, but
Most of
there
them.
are plenty of movies that could be trimmed down a lot, and they never do get trimmed down because they have whatever vision in their mind of what they want out of the movie. And it ends up being 2.5 hours. And it's like, why was this movie so long? Dear God in heaven. Like, I'm trying to think of any recent examples of that. Of a movie I would have considered too long.
So yeah, so
Mhm.
just I was just gonna move on to this Joss Whedon thing if we wanted to talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just him kind of I guess I don't really like this term, but he kind of just running his mouth a little bit, blaming the stars of the Justice League for the way it turned out, and how they were the rudest cast he'd ever worked with, and how Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot or whatever her name is,
Mhm.
she did English wasn't her first language, so she wasn't understanding him, and he wasn't really being that bad. It's like, oh man,
He
dude,
wasn't being that bad. Is
I
that
mean,
the
I'm not
terminology?
saying verbatim, but yeah, that's what he said, that there was a language barrier.
With Gal Gadot, her English is still pretty fucking good. That
Yeah,
that seems like a real Hail Mary attempt at I was being an asshole,
yeah. He
but
said,
there's a reason for it.
"I don't threaten people. Who does that?" Whedon said. Um,
Who does that? He said angrily at the reporter.
uh, Whedon reportedly had told her to shut up and say the line and save the lines, threatening to make her look incredibly stupid in this movie. Uh, man, I'm just trying to find the exact quote here.
Mhm.
The New
I'm
York
seeing-
native acknowledged that they argued over a cutting scene and claimed he jokingly told her that she would have to tie him to a railroad track and do it over his dead body, the outlet explained. Then I was told that I had said something about her dead body and tying her to a railroad track. So, I mean,
Huh.
anyway,
So
and then he was
sounds
talking about Ray Fisher and stuff too. There's just all this controversy about it, and it seems he should have just kept his mouth quiet. To me, it seems really petty.
yeah, it what it reminds me of was Ryan Johnson after Last Jedi came out to not so stellar fan reactions. And he's just like laying into the Star Wars community and telling them that no, they're wrong for not liking my movie, blah blah blah. And in this case, it just sounds like Whedon is butthurt about his version of this movie not being so good.
Yeah, I mean, how that's, man, if anyone's star has fallen, it's kind of him. Yeah, he's really plummeted to earth.
Well, if he hadn't fucking said anything,
Yeah.
I mean, because
well, I mean, he was cheating
I-
on his wife, and there's been claims going way back now that he was abusive on set. So
Mhm. Oh yeah, there's lots of other things for people to be mad at him, justifiably mad at him for. But yeah, it just kind of sounds like he's running his mouth, against better judgment. Like it could have been forgiven for him to have made a bad movie, given the circumstances in which the movie landed in his lap in the first place, right? Like the reason Whedon had to come in to finish up Snyder's movie was that's a sad reason, that Snyder had a death in the family. So it was like he was more or less doing a favor to Snyder, but he still was adopting someone else's work and having to make a movie out of it. And he did the best that he could, he could have run with that story, but no. All the actors are wrong. They're the reason the movie's bad, not me. Nope. So he's just adding another thing to the I'm a shithead pile.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, he directed the Avengers 1 and 2. One definitely being better received than the second one. And I'm sure Warner Brothers brought him in for a very specific purpose, and it was to juice up the movie a little bit and make it more like a Marvel movie. And even because back then, Joss Whedon was hailed as like a great screenwriter and a great dialogue guy. So I'm not surprised that he changed it up. In fact, I bet that's why they brought him in to begin with. So I just think it was a cluster all around, and definitely he seems he didn't handle it well.
No.
And I'm surprised the loyalty seems a lot of these actors actually had to Snyder. I was surprised by that. He seems to be well liked by the people he works with, which is interesting just because his movies tend to be sort of divisive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Snyder does tend to like his movies either hit hard and they're really well received, or they get kind of memed and mocked into oblivion.
Well, I
But
mean, the beginning of his career, he did Dawn of the Dead, which is probably that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I think didn't we bring it up during our Halloween specials being one of our favorites? I think.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's a like. I don't want it to be undersold that Zack Snyder is a good director.
See, I'm not sure that he is. Well, he
I
is.
just think
He has an interesting way of filming things. I remember when 300 came out, and that movie just blew up, and everyone loved it.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, sort of his downfall kind of began with Watchmen, which was sort of came out with a little bit of like it was a sort of a dud, which I don't know if that was really a fair assessment of that film. I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was like the movie was ever going to be.
I think, and at that juncture, we were still relatively early in the new era of superhero movies. Like Iron Man had only come out a year prior to, or wait, yeah, a year prior to that, yeah. And so you had only had a few examples of what I think are like the modern superhero movie out at that time. And then Watchmen comes out, which is a beloved comic or graphic novel by many, like people really dig Watchmen. And one of probably the key things that I think a lot of people were really upset about was changing the story in any kind of way, because it wasn't a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, to be fair, like the original Iron Man movie is one of my favorite movies ever. But I don't know if that movie is necessarily like based directly off of a like Iron Man comic or a particular storyline. I just figured it was an introduction of Iron Man to the masses.
I had to do some research. I don't know. I would imagine it's probably based off something.
That's kind of, yeah, like after learning so much about like what sort of references they do use, it does make me think maybe it is based off of a particular comic or arc at least. But to me, looking back at that, I think, well, there wasn't really much to change in the Iron Man story. It was just we're introducing Iron Man to the world in a much more public way with a face attached from Hollywood, versus Watchmen, which is like so beloved. I wouldn't necessarily say at the time, but it was a really beloved graphic novel.
Beyond being superhero movies and big budget Hollywood films, I don't even know if they're really comparable.
Yeah.
Just because there's like figuring out how to get all of Watchmen into one movie is like a crazy task to do, and actually make it good and satisfy everyone that loves every single scene in the in the comics. I don't know how you would.
Yeah, like how you would juggle that and make it work.
And I did really like Damon Lindelof's Watchmen TV show on HBO, which wasn't an adaptation; it was a sequel. But I thought that was well done, really well done, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I do think that the Snyder Cut Justice League movie was definitely something. It was something that the audience, clearly the fans of the franchise, wanted pretty badly, enough to the point where they financially motivated for it.
Yeah, I never really understood that until I actually saw it. I'm like, why do people want this movie? I don't like. No one liked Batman v Superman. No one liked Superman, or whatever his one was called, the Man of Steel. So
Man of Steel, yeah.
Why is everyone advocating to see the Snyder Cut so much? I don't understand. I haven't seen Man of Steel in years, but I remember when I watched it, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I should rewatch it again, honestly.
I don't know. What I kind of am curious about. I'm sure that after that movie came out, there was the conversation of like, where's the Snyder Cut of this movie? Or there was probably rumblings of a Snyder Cut, but I think the year of our Lord 2020 definitely gave people a lot of time at home to really dig their heels in and like make this thing happen. I think that maybe was part of it. And also was probably a bit of a slam dunk in terms of let's see, what's the company that would own that, or DC and Warner Brothers. That like, well, we can't really film any movies right now, so why don't we just pay a bunch of CG artists to just make this movie into something that would resemble an actual film or what would have been originally released by Zack Snyder. So it probably seemed like it made a lot of sense at the time. It probably was still wildly expensive, but they probably would have spent triple that trying to do any kind of reshoots or filming for it anyway. So I don't know. Seemed like the timing for it, I think, just lined up really nicely, because I haven't really heard any outcries about any other alternative cuts of movies. You know,
Really? You haven't heard of the people want the Ayers cut of Suicide Squad?
Oh, really?
It seems like that every time there's been studio interference in superhero movies, there's always people out there like, oh, now we want the Shyamalan cut or M. Night Shyamalan cut of Avatar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, which I think it's cool that the internet can get things like that happening. There are like weird examples, I think, of the internet really, and I'm saying just broadly the internet, fans of the series, whatever, making such a broad push for change into things they really love, or for a version of something to be released that they otherwise wouldn't see. Justice League is one of them, and I think a good example of it too was the Sonic movie.
Oh yeah.
That original version of Sonic that got released, like, was absolutely a monstrosity. That was not a good take on what Sonic should have looked like. So
yeah, truly terrifying.
On the one hand, I'm glad that we didn't end up with that movie with that particular version of Sonic, but then I just feel terribly for the employees of that studio who had to fucking redo all of that animation, the work that they had already done for this new model. Like, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's fascinating too, because that Sonic 2 is coming out early this year, so that seems like a really quick turnaround.
Yeah, well, I think after they got the formula right, I think they realized they had something on their hands that could actually make money. I still haven't seen the Sonic movie. I'm not a huge Sonic fan, so I'm not going to stand here and pretend like I know that much about him.
I demand that you stand up and say that, Matt.
My captain.
I'm not gonna. Anyway, I'm not a Sonic guy either, but I have seen the film. It was all right. There's a lot of. I think the best scene was probably the kind of the Quicksilver X-Men scene.
Sure.
Where he's like running around in the bar. There's some fart jokes that landed.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's set in Montana. Set in Montana for a lot of it, so.
I mean, that's fun. Does it say where?
It's probably in Western Montana. I don't think it was a real place. It doesn't look like Montana. You know, it's set there, but it doesn't look like Montana.
To the untrained eye, it may look like Montana, but we all know better.
It seems like Montana is having its day in the sun, these spotlight, just with Yellowstone seeming to become so popular. The show, I haven't seen it yet, and also Big Sky. So there's a lot of.
I'd heard of Yellowstone. I hadn't heard of Big Sky.
Yeah, it's one of those basic cable dramas.
Oh, so bad. Okay.
Yeah, probably pretty bad. Yellowstone's supposed to be really good though.
Yeah, actually, yeah, my barber was telling me about that. I told her I was from Montana. She's like, "Oh my god, I've been watching Yellowstone."
It just seems like everyone's watching it now. It's like one of those memes where everyone's talking about it, and I don't know how that happened. It just started to catch on, I guess.
Oh, it's from the same guy who did Big Little Lies. Interesting. Okay. That is Big Sky. That is. I don't know. I lived there for so long. I don't know if I'm necessarily all jonesed up to watch a show set there, specifically set there. But I don't know. Maybe if I get bored someday.
Okay, I think we're done talking about that. We could talk about the IGN on our top games
Sure.
if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's a really new, hot breaking news. An article that came out. I mean, I suppose it's not that old. It's about a month old, and a list that spans the time that this list does. It is pretty interesting, I think. But
I'm gonna pull it up right now. Well, I guess I could
Yeah.
share my screen.
we don't, or I could share mine actually. I think.
Yeah, can you do that? Do you have the permission? I hope so.
Let's see.
It'd be down at the bottom there. It's like a green looking button.
Oh, share screen. There we go. Let's see. Do that. Disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, so it says you have disabled it, so I'm not allowed. So you can share your screen if that works. But I mean, it is an interesting list, and I will say that I think I've played it.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay, cool. Let's see if this
I
will
think.
work.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Looks like, yeah, this is the one we want. Or yeah, here, I'll just do share. See if this works.
Yep, I can see it.
Cool. All right, so spoilers, the whole list. We can go over the top 10 at least in terms of what.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the top 10.
Because at number 10 we have Disco Elysium. Which
Never heard of
is,
it. I'm gonna talk about that one.
I have heard of this game. Actually, my wife has been playing this game. And it's, I think actually, Nick, this would be a game you would really like.
Okay.
It's it's about like a totally drugged out detective struggling with his inner demons and trying to like piece together not only who he is because he can't remember, and also solve a murder. So
I mean, it sounds interesting.
yeah, and a lot of the game seems to be done through the lens of.
When did it come out, out of curiosity?
I think it's been getting like updates for a long time. It's one that's been kind of releasing episodes as far as I'm aware, but I think the original release was in 2019.
Oh, so there's recency bias. There's no way it's one of the top 10 of all time. Let's keep going. I don't trust this list already.
See, you say that, but their number 11 is Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, that's true.
And their number two actually subverts that even more.
What's number 9? What's number 9?
So number 9 is Half-Life 2.
I mean,
which I think is a spoilers. I think is another good choice. I don't know if this would make my top 10.
It's a shooter, so I haven't played it obviously, but I know it's highly esteemed. They should make a movie out of it, and I would know what it is.
This is or you could play the game. This is a game that I became aware of at the same time as a lot of other games because I bought the orange box back in the day.
Oh yeah, I remember when that came out. It had like Portal on it. And
had Portal, it had Team Fortress 2, and it had like all of the Half-Life games episodes up until, or I think it was just the whole collection, because the most recent thing we've gotten for Half-Life is Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR game.
Yeah,
which I do want to play.
Has that actually come out?
Half-Life Alyx? Oh yeah, definitely. People have been playing and having a good time with it, so far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But so yeah, I think Half-Life 2, I think it's a worthwhile choice to be in the top 10 because Valve in particular is a company that when they put out a game, they generally are trying to make use of like cutting edge technology for the time. And at the time it was like mind blowing what they could do with the interaction with the world. So, and it gave us the gravity gun, man. Like that's just such an iconic video game weapon. But anyway,
yeah, that's cool.
Number 8, as some might have keen-eyed people might have seen, Red Dead Redemption 2. This is one that I don't agree with being in the top 10 personally. I think the original Red Dead should be on the top 10 possibly, but I don't know about Red Dead 2.
I mean, I never played it, so I
See, my friend, you need to broaden your gaming horizons.
I feel like that's gonna be the whole top 10. Like, I don't know what that is. I never played it.
No, you actually know I know at least 2 of these that you know for certain.
Okay.
And have played.
If it's a Nintendo game, okay, I have played Super Mario 64.
Yeah, Super Mario 64, right? Like, and that seems like a really obvious choice for this.
I don't know. I never really liked Super Mario 64 that much.
You didn't like Super Mario 64?
I like Banjo-Kazooie, man. I was a Banjo-Kazooie kid.
I mean, Banjo-Kazooie was really good. I was more of a Banjo-Tooie guy.
Oh,
myself.
yeah. No, I mean, I loved all the rare
Mhm.
like imitations. I thought they were good. Better than the original, actually. Which was Super Mario 64. Like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Donkey Kong 64, which was a collectathon. They kind of like went too much into the collecting, but I still enjoyed it more than Super Mario 64. And I actually have never played Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is like a X-rated version of Super Mario 64.
I know I've never played it either, and it's been something I've considered doing, but at this juncture, I just think I only like really have the motivation to go back and play old video games that I've already played before. Like, if I'm going to be playing an old video game nowadays that I don't have any nostalgia attached to, I want it to be like an updated version, something that's not going to destroy my retinas.
Yeah. So Super Mario, well, haven't they come out with versions of Conker's Bad Fur Day with better graphics?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't agree with Super Mario 64. It's an iconic video game and definitely deserves a spot and with being like first of its kind of something, but I wouldn't say it's one of the best of all time.
Oh man. I mean, IGN clearly disagrees with you. I disagree with you too, but
okay.
Number 6, Mass Effect 2.
I know you like this one.
This one, I 100%. I would put this in my top 5. I think number 6 is very respectable on this list, but top 5 for mine for sure. Mass Effect has been blowing up more recently because of the recent release of the Legendary Edition. And there's an actual, they've been calling it Mass Effect 4, which kind of seems to be alluding to the fact that they're going to skip over the dumpster fire that was Mass Effect Andromeda. But yeah, Mass Effect 2 is such a good game. It just does such a great job of taking all the parts of Mass Effect 1 that were so good and updating them and adding new systems that made it just so even better. Like, easily one of the best games of all time, I think. Like, narratively, just the scope of the whole thing, primo. If you haven't played Mass Effect as a series, you should. And if you're not doing it right now, what are you doing with your life?
I feel singled out here, Matt.
Yeah, good. I want you to be shamed into playing some of these because these are classics, my guy.
I don't know. I don't see Broforce here, so
Broforce. I'm sure Broforce broke. Well, okay. Out of morbid curiosity,
it's not. There's no way. If it was,
Broforce is not on this list.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be.
Unless it's nope, definitely not. Okay, so
all right, I see number 5.
All right, so getting on to number 5. 2, Super Metroid. Now, this is one that I actually haven't played.
Oh, you showed me number 4 too early.
See, I know it's hard. Scrolling's hard. No, Super Metroid, I think I honestly don't have an opinion one way or the other. I'm surprised it's so high on this list. I think this game did kind of give birth to the whole Metroidvania style of game that a lot of people are really into. I mean, like,
just looking at this list, I'm just gonna say, just from what I've seen, I feel it's way harder to make a top 100 video games of all time list because it depends on how you're reviewing. Like, I think if you have a top 100 movie of all time, you can compare a movie that was made, let's say, in 2020
Mhm.
versus a movie that's in 1980, and even though obviously our technical effects are way better now, I think you can say that movie in 1980 could be a better movie in every single category
Mhm.
than a movie in 2020. But if you compare, let's say, Super Metroid to a Metroidvania game that came out in 2020, that's superior in every single way, graphics, gameplay wise. The only reason why Super Metroid is on this list is because it was like one of the first that did that, or people are nostalgic
Well,
about
and
it.
I think you bring up a valid point. My counter to that would be, one, I don't really know what the criteria for this list is, because that is a valid thing. Like, if you compare Super Metroid to, I think a good example would be Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania that has been ludicrously well received by the video game community, and which is really cool. But yeah, like if you compare that to Super Metroid, it's like, yeah, Super Metroid did it first, but Hollow Knight obviously does it better. Yeah. Um,
See,
but
that's
that
the thing. It's like I'm
also,
like, well, I only played Ukulele a little bit, and I'm like,
mhm,
that game sucked, but it's still
yeah,
probably better than Super Mario 64 in a lot of ways, graphic
I don't know
wise.
though. I think that's actually a bad example personally.
Yeah, it probably is. It probably is.
I
To me,
think
they're the same though.
like I think a good example of like how Super Metroid is superior would be comparing it to something like shoot, like the game that came to my mind just now was there's like a recent Mega Man game that came out.
Well, don't get me wrong. I think Super Metroid can still be better than games these days, but it's
Yeah,
hard. It's just hard when a game that can come out now is probably superior in every way to Super Metroid. The only reason why Super Metroid is on the top gaming list is because it is iconic or did something first, or there's nostalgia to it. Anyway,
well, and
I'm
I
not
think
saying it's
part of
not.
it,
I'm not saying Super Metroid isn't a great game. I think it probably is. I've never played it either, but it's just kind of interesting, this list.
yeah, well, and I think part of it too is, I mean, there's going to be a bit of a bias because I feel like I don't know exactly who all was in on this list. Like, actually, Super Metroid, this choice was made by Justin Davis. He's part of the Game Scoop crew, which is IGN's like game podcast, or one of them anyway.
Okay.
Um, and and it completely makes sense that Justin would make this choice based off of what I've been listening to from him on GameScoop for like the last couple of years,
Yeah.
because the guys on GameScoop are all older dudes with one lady, and her experience is still quite drastically different than the older. I don't want to call them old fogies, but by comparison, they are. Super Metroid would 100% be on their list. Mario 64 would be on their list. But there are newer games on their list that do make this list. And it might be interesting for us to go look at the bottom 10 even
Yeah.
after
Well,
we
I'm
go
not
through
thinking
the
like
top.
Mario 64, okay,
Mhm,
versus Mario Odyssey. Or
sure.
like I would think Mario Odyssey is probably better in every single way to Mario 64, right?
Mario Odyssey better in every way to Mario 64. Maybe. It depends. I feel like it's hard to quantify what you mean by better in
Yeah, I
every
mean
way.
that's the whole point. It's hard to quantify, I guess, but I would say that as a game, as an
Mhm.
experience, it's probably better than Mario 64.
I don't know. Like, I think that's really hard to say. Um, like there are parts about Odyssey that I really like, um, but there are parts of Mario 64 that I really like too, just for different reasons. And I don't necessarily write off a game like graphically. A game can be beautiful without being high resolution or looking super realistic. I think there are plenty of examples of that.
Well, I mean, I'm a Nintendo fan, so
Yeah, and so like,
it's not like I'm not aware of living in the previous generation or even two generations ago, graphics wise.
yeah, like there are clearly improvements on things, but like when a game does a thing for the first time and does it so well, like Super Metroid and like Castlevania games like that, like created a genre, with how beloved they were.
Yeah.
And like Super Mario 64 kind of did the same thing for 3D platforming, though to be fair, 3D platformers have certainly dropped off tremendously.
I just wonder, like, okay, so 100 years from now,
Mhm.
will Mario 64 be on this list? I'm not sure that it will.
100 years, I would maybe say no, only because I'm imagining VR will take hold at some point in that. Lord knows the metaverse is coming. Anyway, let's look at number 4. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Again, I don't agree with this.
Okay, discuss.
I've played The Legend of Zelda. I've tried to play this game several times, and it's fine. I just never could get through it. There is other top-down Zelda games that I like so much better than A Link to the Past.
Sure.
So the only reason why I would think that it's on here is because, the nostalgia factor. So I don't agree. I'm just going to say that. I'm a fan of Zelda. I love top-down Zelda games. Actually, they made a sequel to this game. And what was it called? Oh, it came out a few years ago on the 3DS. The Link to the Past 2. I'll say it's The Link to the Past 2. That game is amazing. I love that game. It's so fun. And I just love the whole thing. That game is superior in every way to this game. So yeah, don't agree.
Yeah, A Link Between Worlds.
A Link Between Worlds. Man, that was a great game. I loved that game.
Yeah, that's a game I've actually been meaning to play.
Yeah, I should replay it. It's just it's different than any Zelda game you've played in a certain way, because you actually can get access to all the weapons in any sort of order you want. So
sure,
it's just a weird way to do it.
I don't have a super strong opinion about this one. This is a game that a lot of people do bring up in conversations about Zelda in particular. But I have played through this game. It's been a hot minute since I've done it, though. Like, it's been a very long time. And I will say that I don't necessarily think that I agree with its placing on this list overall, but I do think it probably deserves a place. I think most Zelda games would deserve a place on a top 100 list, just in terms of quality.
I mean, I even like those Capcom produced Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages.
Yeah, no, I have both of them on my 3DS actually.
Yeah, I like both those games better than A Link to the Past.
Actually, I've been playing Majora's Mask on my 3DS recently. It's been
even that remake of Link's Awakening, which I haven't played, I'm sure is probably better than A Link to the Past. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, actually, that remake on the Switch is fantastic. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I should get it.
You should play more video games.
They should just make more remakes of Zelda. Like, I would love it if they made like a high-res remake of Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time. I think it'd be really cool. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, the newest versions of those we have are the 3DS games,
which you can't even access really unless you have a 3DS.
Yeah, unless you have a 3DS. I mean, I don't know. There might be ways to emulate that.
Oh, I guess yeah. You could probably emulate it on your computer.
But I'm actually not sure, because touchscreen games tend to be really tricky for emulators. Not that I know anything about that.
Technically, I guess, according to the law, as long as you've actually purchased the game at some point in your life, it's legal to download the game for free offline.
Yeah, I mean, that is a dubious, a gray area at best.
Anyway,
one that I'd rather not push the bounds on.
Okay.
But number 3, Portal 2.
We already were talking about this one a little bit.
Yeah, I think this game 100% deserves to be here. Like, this was the first game that really showed me that that video games could have tremendously good writing. Like, the writing in this game, the humor is so good. It just pulls you in and really makes you like live in this world. It's so freaking good. I have such strong, happy memories associated with this game. I have actively made every romantic partner I've had since this game came out play with me because it's so fucking good and has a great co-op.
Mm.
So, but
Yeah.
this is one of those games. I think another game that you have not played.
I've watched other people play it for what it's worth. Yeah. I just have never really been a huge fan of like first person stuff.
Yeah, you tend not to be a fan of that. You're more of the third person perspective. Which I get. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
I mean,
know, like,
I live my life in the first person mode. So when I'm playing video games, I want
you
to change
want
it up
a different perspective. It's actually a really funny way to think about it. Anyway, okay, so that was number 3. Number 2, Super Mario World.
Man, Nintendo's getting repped on these top 10.
Well, it makes sense because I feel like a lot of Nintendo games hold up pretty well to the test of time. Like the sprite work in Super Mario World, I think is a good example. Like the game just looks beautiful and colorful. It's not high res, but pixel art is like a class of its own in terms of beauty.
Yeah, there's something very, I don't know. I can't even describe why pixel art.
It's charm. I think like it's 100% about just like how charming it
charm.
can be.
There's also like a nostalgic factor to it, I think, for me. Anyway.
Yeah, like I just think that like pixel art can convey a lot of movement and character and personality without as many pixels, and it can be done in really creative ways. And I think Super Mario World is a great example of that. That's whenever I play Super Mario Maker, I am always looking forward to a world that takes place in Super Mario World because it's a game that its mechanics that I understand better than a lot of the other franchises. But
I made some levels in the first Super Mario Maker that I love so much, and I put so much time into them, and I think they're just deleted now. So, oh well.
They're not deleted. The game is still there, but you can't upload levels anymore.
Well, there was a whole other thing, too.
Oh yeah, where your levels got removed.
Well, yeah, there was one that got removed for some reason. Like they just took it down. I don't know why.
Sure.
They didn't say. It just said I couldn't do it, and I don't know why. It was a really weird level. You had to use bombs the entire time to get through it. I don't know if you remember playing through that at all. I think I sent it.
I'm trying to remember. I remember the mole world. That's the one I remember very clearly.
Yeah, that's the one I spent the most time on. That was fun because I hit a lot of like secret areas in it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's why. Yeah. I mean, you haven't played or even picked up Super Mario Maker 2.
I mean, I own it. I just haven't played it.
Oh, you own it? Oh,
Yeah.
make some worlds. I'll play them.
I will say the interface, because you didn't really have that separate touchscreen, wasn't quite. It wasn't.
It's
quite
not as user friendly.
Yeah. Anyway,
I would agree with that. But but yeah, Super Mario World 2 or Super Mario World is the number 2 pick for IGN, and I think that's a really good choice.
I'm ready for number 1. I already know what number 1 is, but
yeah, I think number 1 seems like a really obvious pick. And it's Breath of the Wild.
I'm actually kind of amazed that they went with that.
They actually, a lot of the people on the Game Scoop crew that I listen to have been chastised by their community for talking about Breath of the Wild too much, to the point that it's kind of like a taboo topic to bring up anymore.
Huh.
Because they gushed over this game so much.
I mean, I love the game. It's amazing. I played it actually, and that was one of the reasons. Okay, so I remember there was a time I was playing this game, and it was on the Wii U. I had the Wii U version of it, and the cartridge or the memory stick was hanging out the front of it. And
God!
I was sitting on the couch with my then girlfriend, and then I can't remember what happened. There was someone at the front door, so the dog got up really quick. And it was a really hot day, and then she got up really quick, knocked the fan down onto the memory card, like knocked it like.
Oh God! Like a guillotine.
Yeah, it was a USB stick. That's right. It was a USB sticking out of it, and yeah, I just remember I was devastated because I had put so much time into it. I was just devastated, and that's actually
That's
the reason
so
why I lost
brutal.
some of the levels on Mario Maker was because of that. So
Oh, right. Oh, God, that's so sad. That's really sad. Yeah, because like my original playthrough of Breath of the Wild was actually on the Wii U as well. I didn't have a Switch for at least a year after it came out, a year or two. And so the only way for me to play Breath of the Wild was on the Wii U, and it definitely didn't look nearly as pretty or run as well, but it was a way for me to get to experience that game before all of the magic went away. You know, with the newness and the mystery of the game. Um, and yeah, I beat the hell out of that game. Hey, shush, be nice. Sorry,
yeah,
you can probably hear them arguing in the background.
I mean, I love that game. I think it's so cool that you can see a mountain in the distance, for instance, and go climb it if you want to. It's really interesting. So
And only on the Switch version have I still haven't beaten the game on my Switch, but I have been making my way through it again. And I have beaten the the Champions Ballad DLC now, which that was tremendously fun, challenging but fun. Which is kind of what like all of the DLC for that game has been. It's like Breath of the Wild hard mode for most of it.
yeah, I kind of don't like that they did that, to be honest. I wish they would have just. I don't really like the whole hard mode thing. Just make another temple or something. I don't know. That's what I wanted, but
I mean, like that's more or less what the DLC is. And like to say that it's hard mode like isn't exactly accurate. Like there are parts of it that are more difficult than others for sure. Hey, shush. Hush. But I like it. If ever I had trouble with a section, it took me 2 tries versus the first try being my, like in playing it. So I don't really think calling it hard mode is fair. Like you can play the game on master mode, which I have tried one time and immediately gave up on because of how brutally challenging it was.
I mean, that game is kind of hard just by itself. I remember when I first started playing it and I ran into this area and I just got killed over and over again. It was because you can go anywhere you want to. So you kind of have to be careful where you end up.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember very clearly on when I started master mode, I was running around on the plateau in the area where you like initially find the cabin where like the warm tunic can be found to make your way through the snow areas. There's just a Lionel like on the starting plateau of the game. It's just like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do about this? Like
the Lionel's still. Yeah, I can't. I mean, even when I was probably at my peak in that game, those creatures were hard to kill.
If you ever want to feel really bad about how shitty you are at Breath of the Wild, like watch people play Breath of the Wild on the subreddit. Because those people are savants at that game. Like
yeah, I've seen some crazy weird stuff where they do these amazing kills of Lionels, and I'm just like, oh, geez, man.
Oh yeah, master mode shit where they're like a Dragon Ball Z character. They're flying across the screen. The Lionel has no idea where they are. Like it's absolute insanity.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this conversation does kind of prove why Breath of the Wild is number 1 on this list, though. Like we have a handful of stories offhand to talk about with this game. Like,
yeah. Well, I think there's a point in that game where I think it's when I got to the second village up in the mountains where I'm like, oh man, this game is cool. It's just really cool. And I think that's when I sort of understood what they had accomplished with it, because it's just a really interesting game. There is stuff I do kind of wish, I hope they incorporate more of some of the other 3D Zelda games into this new world that they created. I kind of want them to incorporate some of that older stuff into the open world, but I still love it. It's a good game.
I still
very relaxing.
I still really miss traditional temples. I will say that the shrines were fine. Some of them I found wildly more annoying than others. Anything that had to do with the gyro controls, I was not about. Like that was just not super fun for me.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But
I
other
remember
than
there was
that,
like one thing. There's like one where you were trying to like, I think, move like a ball into something else.
yeah,
You know, and then what you can do is you can like flip the map
flip
over.
it upside down.
Yeah, that's
just
and I did that, and I think a lot of people must do that because it makes it so much easier to do what you're doing. And
yeah, well, because the like as revolutionary as the gyro and the switch is, it's still shit. So like it really just made it so challenging to maneuver something like that with such fine movements. So I think yeah, barring some of those smaller gripes, Breath of the Wild is such a good game. And I think it being I don't know if I necessarily agree the best game of all time, but I do think it deserves a place in the top 10, at least
Yeah.
in my opinion.
So according to IGN, how their key metrics are how great a game it was when it launched, how fun it is to still play today, and how much the game reflects the best in its class. So
Okay. Yeah, no, actually, that seems like a pretty fair criteria. I mean,
wow. Final Fantasy VII is 98. I would think that'd be higher up.
yeah, I was gonna say, what are some games that you think should be on this list?
Animal Crossing is at 91, but oh, they put okay. So SimCity 2000 is 89. I loved that game growing up. I liked SimCity 3000 a little bit more, but
Sure.
that makes me happy to see it at 89. I love SimCity. I wish they would make one. I know they made there's like City Skylines that I should try and play, but I haven't really played it. I think my opinion on video games isn't very. It's hard because growing up with video games, like this is the kind of crappy stuff that I would put in my top 10 that would probably make no sense. It's like, oh yeah, like Pod Racer or Cell Damage or some dumb game that's not probably very good, but I just don't have like a lot of experience with the top games of all time, you know. Like I don't think I have the breadth of knowledge to make my a Fable 2 is no man, that game's not that good, really.
Really, not a Fable fan.
No, I mean I liked it and I enjoyed playing it. I don't think it's a very good game. At least it's fine, but it's not great.
Yeah, it's funny how like some of them, like I would in particular, like for us personally, like I was having this discussion with my wife the other day about Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, or not Ultimate, but Melee. How you and I played that game so much. We played the shit out of that game.
Does it show up on this list?
Nope. Smash Bros is on the list, but it's Ultimate. Only the newest one is on the list.
Wow, hard disagree there.
Yeah, I think Melee should make the list, and I think Ultimate should be like 101. You know, like I don't think it should be on the list compared to when Melee came out, because the first game was certainly very good, and it built what that game is today. But I think Melee like really refined it, and that game is still actively played by many people to this day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with I disagree with Pokemon Yellow. I think the best the Pokemon games ever got for me personally were Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Yes, or at least their original counterparts, Gold and Silver. Like those games were so revolutionary at the time for adding two new types and like an actual clock and time being added, like night and day cycles. It's crazy.
I love those games. I loved them back when they first came out, and then when I played the remakes when they came out, like probably like 10 years ago now. I loved them. Ocarina of Time is at 34. See, I would put Ocarina of Time where they put Super Mario 64 is at, but I'm assuming they didn't want to gum up the top 10 with all the Zelda games. But
yeah, I think that ends up being a problem too, is I think that for a lot of people, Zelda would be a huge part of the conversation. And it shows like how strong of a franchise that is. That like probably a ton of people would choose all Zelda games. Like I want to get a Zelda tattoo. That's how much I fucking love that series, man. Like it's so good. And there's been so few games in that series that I played that didn't satisfy me to some regard, in most regards, Yeah, like Red Dead Redemption is on this list, but it's number 37. And I personally would swap the two. I think Red Dead 2 isn't as good as Red Dead 1, but I'm also a little biased, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
Actually,
It's interesting for sure.
Is Halo only on this list the one time?
I know. I saw Halo 2.
Interesting. So they have the original Halo is 32, and Halo 2 is number 15.
Yep. See, that's my thing too. Like I'm a Nintendo guy, so I know Nintendo games. So to me, having 2 Halo games on this list is kind of stupid, but oh well.
I mean, I think like for the original experience of what Halo was, Halo 1 deserves to be on this list for like when it came out.
Well then, so do they have Mario Kart twice? Like when you think Mario Kart, I see Deluxe on there, but like the original Mario Kart, why is that not on there?
See, I think the original Mario Kart, although it spawned this whole series, they're also like in their criteria, they do mention that like, can you go back and still have as much fun in this game in 2022?
And I would say no with Super Mario 64. I think that game's super dated.
See, I would disagree. I think it's actually pretty easy. I can pick up Super Mario 64 and do pretty much all the same movement as I did back in the day. Like that's something that comes back to me very easily. But also my hatred of the camera comes back because that was one of the worst parts of that game.
Yeah.
But Super Mario 60 or Mario Kart 64, I think, is an example of a game. That game is miserable to go back and play now. I think the original Mario Kart or Mario Kart 64 was terrible by comparison to modern iterations of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fine. It's one man. It's just their one opinion, man.
Oh yeah, I mean they have
it's like your opinion, man.
It's like totally your opinion, man.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered that. I think we should just talk about what who are this is a very important topic and people want to know. People have been
I don't think anyone gives a shit about who we
people have been demanding to know. I've been getting so many
You've gotten
text
no
messages
from anyone about
DMs,
this
emails.
You sit on a throne of lies is what you do. I would be willing to discuss just the one childhood
crush, and it has to be
crush.
I can name 2 at least.
I mean, I'm sure I could maybe name.
I should do a top 10 most weird childhood crushes list.
The most weird part has me immediately concerned. Immediately concerned.
Okay, the first one that comes to mind is the Pink Ranger.
Hey, both of you, shut up.
Pink Ranger.
That was actually going to be my choice. Like Pink Ranger was 100% my childhood crush. It's either her or oh shit, what was her name? Okay, you'll have to bear with me. I don't remember her name.
Well, what series?
Okay, so it's Power Rangers still.
Oh, okay. See, I only watched, I think, the first maybe 2 iterations of it.
So, okay, the cast of this movie. What was her name? She was, for those wondering, it's not Rita Repulsa. A babe she may be.
Solid choice. Rita like wow.
I think, yeah, what was her name? Is it Dulcia?
Dulcia.
Dulcia? Is that her name? Yeah, Dulcia. Yeah, no, this gal here.
Share screen. I gotta know.
She 100% was on my radar as a kid. I was super into this gal.
Oh, she's from the movie.
Yeah, she's only from the movie, as far as I'm aware. I don't think she ever appeared anywhere else.
Yeah, because the movie was like totally different than the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say totally
No, I
different.
mean, okay, I'll say okay. So the movie was made by Americans for Americans. The
Yes.
TV show was this weird mixed mash of or mishmash of like Japanese and American that they dubbed over. It's like
Yes, no, 100%. Like the people that we see on screen, their faces, those are not the people in those suits. Like,
yeah, I
and
mean, yeah, because and growing up, I didn't realize that they had basically all the fight scenes were from Japan, and they just put American actor like filmed scenes with American actors, and then claimed that those were the actors in the suit. Obviously, they even Japan they probably weren't in the suits, but it's just a weird cultural thing, and you can see it with like Rita Repulsa. Like Rita Repulsa, is that what her name
yeah,
is? Just the way she would talk, it was. I as a kid, I'm like, well, she talks weird, but it never really came into my mind why that was happening.
right. I'm kind of curious now. This actress, her name is Gabrielle Fitzpatrick. She's apparently an Australian actress.
Man, they make them different in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, but but yeah, I think I actually would maybe put her higher than Pink Ranger, only
Ranger, wow.
because like Pink Ranger got me interested in Power Rangers, or like
She
she didn't
piqued
get
your
me
interest,
interested,
but this
she's
lady, she took it home, man.
I mean, I watched that movie a lot as a kid, like, and because I love Power Rangers. I was super into Power Rangers as a kid, and I always thought she was smoking hot too. Like, she was smoking hot before I knew how to say like what smoking hot was. So,
Yeah.
but
Do you know?
but yeah,
I was gonna say, do you know a recent trend in the Marvel movies when, especially in What If,
Hmm.
whenever they bring up Thor, they always have to bring up how hot he is. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed it. Like,
I think that was like a woman that they were every time they heard it. And everyone was
yeah,
like,
like,
"Oh, he's so hot," or "She's so hot, man." Can you just
yeah, I
imagine?
don't. It's kind of annoying how there is that double standard, but perhaps in to play devil's advocate, perhaps they're working on uh, bringing the needle closer to the middle in terms of it's like, well, men have been doing it for so long as to say that the needle's practically flush with the other side. So now we need to be sexualized by women for a certain length of time for things to be a little more equal. Um, but that being said, yeah, I think it's kind of a weird trend, especially because I feel like it. I mean, I don't know. They did that in the original Thor movie for sure. Like,
Yeah.
they constantly alluded to how attractive he was.
I wonder if it's like in Chris Hemsworth's contract where someone in the movie has to talk about how attractive he is, sort of like how The Rock can never lose a battle in lose a fight in any of his movies because it's part of his contract.
Well, and I want this to be recorded here right now. Like, I want someone to call me out. I want you to call me out if this doesn't happen. I can fucking guarantee. So Fat Thor was a thing for the most recent or for the final Avengers film. Yeah. There is 100% going to be an article written by one of these shitty websites about like Thor having bulked back up and turned into his normal Adonis self once as Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever next Thor movie comes out, Thor Love and Thunder. Like, that is 100% going to be an article that gets written, and there's going to be people on the internet who are mad about it. Like, because like that, I love that they did that with Thor in that movie, just turned him into a drunk mess. But yeah, now they got to make him eye candy again, so that's 100% gonna happen. But
Okay, so let's think. So Pink Ranger. I was also gonna bring up like Princess Jasmine, specifically, the when she's in Jafar's like outfit that you know what I'm saying?
yes, I know what you're saying. It's conversation is so ridiculous.
Didn't awaken anything in you, Matt?
No, I mean, yeah, like clearly I thought she was attractive for a cartoon, I guess. But like as a child, also, it wasn't something that was necessarily on my mind. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, Jasmine's so hot. And I don't go back and watch that movie and go, ooh, Jasmine girl. Like, no, that's not a thing that's happening.
I don't do that
Like,
either. But I just remember watching that movie and thinking like, oh wow, there's something I like about her.
there's something I like about her. I can't quite put my finger on it. No, like honestly, I can't really even think of that many. Like there was Pink Ranger and then apparently Dulcia from the Power Rangers movie. I'm struggling to even think of any other like childhood crushes, like characters I thought were like really hot. If I had to pick someone off the top of my head,
I know one.
that came off like that just came to my mind thinking of cartoons, but I feel like this is the case for a lot of people, was Jessica Rabbit. Yeah, like, but I think that's a choice for a lot of people because she's ridiculously sexualized in that movie.
I had a huge crush on when I was like in elementary school, like Natalie Portman and in the Phantom Menace.
Really?
Oh yeah, huge crush on her.
See, my annoyance with Padme overrode any sort of attraction to her. I found Padme quite annoying as a kid.
I guess I didn't.
I mean, I suppose like if we're talking about our age range here, I was a little bit younger than you when that movie came out.
Yeah, I think I was in first grade, maybe.
Oh yeah, I would have been. Yeah, I was a baby by comparison. Thinking of now anyway.
Well, I mean, as a first grader, I think that's pretty.
Yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, honestly, yeah, really, I cannot think of a ton of examples of like childhood crushes. Like outside of what things we've kind of already talked about, like I've mentioned Evangeline Lilly before. She was probably more along the lines of one of my first like TV show crushes, I guess. But then that was on a show that came out when I was more of a teenager. So
I just remember being really into Lost, which Evangeline Lilly's on Lost. If yeah,
you're I mean that's where both you and I.
But I just remember I was like reading online. Someone was like, when they were talking about how attractive she was, they said they would swim through.
God damn it. I know what this is already.
I would
so you can't even fucking say it. It's over the top. It's ridiculous.
Okay. I would swim I would swim through a river of shit with my mouth open just to shake her hand.
Jesus Christ. That's the tame version.
I don't know why I always found that really funny. And it stuck with me for 20 years apparently. So.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I feel like I don't have a ton more feedback on this topic because
I feel like you're defensive about it, Matt.
No, I really don't. Like I can't really think of a lot of examples of it. Like my family, my parents in particular, will remember quite vividly, I'm sure, that like I was like little Romeo as a kid. I was super into girls fairly early on. Like I had little crushes. Ramona, you need to leave. Oh my goodness, she is just in my grill right now. Relax. But that was real girls. Like shows and movies and stuff. It wasn't really on my radar to be like to have crushes on those people. Like women and stuff that I watched were things that I just didn't really think about in that context, I guess. Like I was too busy trying to woo women in my real life, which I was terrible at. I was good at it as a kid because I was cute and a kid. And then for most of my life, I was bad at it. And then I got married. So, but yeah, like childhood crushes. Yeah, this is like, I'm trying to think of examples. This is not there. But if you have more examples, by all means, we can keep.
No, I think I thought of the 3 that I could think of as well.
Yeah.
Currently.
But yeah, I mean, those were definitely the 2. Like the 2 examples that came to my mind immediately were, yeah, definitely Pink Ranger, Kimberly, and then Dulcia from the Power Rangers movie. It's like all Power Rangers based. So maybe that says more about me than it does anything.
I mean, it's pretty tame too. It's not like you weren't like, oh man, Black Arachnia really did something for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Lola Bunny definitely awoke something in me at the time when that movie came out, Space Jam. But that, I don't know, too. When did Space Jam come out? I mean,
I think 1997. That's my guess.
Yeah, I still would have been. I don't know if I saw it in 1997, but 1996, I guess.
Yeah, but, I mean, they ruined that character, and then
don't even go there. But
yeah, we're not going to talk about Zendaya.
Yeah, that's, you're not allowed. But I don't know. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about today? I think we touched base on everything.
Okay, so I'll leave with this. So for some reason, every day at like 4:20, maybe 4:15.
Okay.
Crows descend upon my apartment complex. Like hundreds of crows.
Crows, okay.
And they just all sit in the trees and like caw at each other. It started a few weeks ago, or even like a week ago. And every single day around like 4 o'clock, the place just like turns into Crowville. It's insanity. Crowville. It's so weird. And I'm like, it's a little disturbing just because, crows don't have the best reputation. They're kind of creepy and they're trash birds. So,
I mean, they're very smart though.
They are very smart. Actually, I was trying to become friends with them and throw them like treats just so that, okay, here's another weird thing. So the other day I was walking my dog.
Okay.
It was like around 9:20. Usually I let him out a little earlier than that. And this guy, he walks out with this bag of peanuts and he's throw the peanuts on the ground and the crows descend upon it like ravenous animals, which they are. There's like crows coming everywhere. And I'm like, oh, that's why there's always weird peanut shells around here all the time. This guy's been feeding the crows like every day. Like, who does that?
Well, and that explains why there are crows too, then, because these crows.
It's this mother effer who's like bringing the crows upon us.
It is 100% his fault, because I was gonna say there's someone in your complex or somewhere nearby that feeds these birds, because, like we said, crows are smart. He fed them one time, and now they went and told all their fucking crow buddies, "Oh, dude, you have no idea how dope this is. He just throws peanuts out. It's amazing."
Seriously, hundreds upon hundreds of crows, just all flying around, like cawing. Can you hear that at all?
No, I can't hear it.
Dude, okay, give me one. I just want to see if you can. Just for like posterity.
Posterity's sake.
Can you hear that?
Okay, I can hear it a little bit now. It's not like cacophony, but I can definitely hear some crowing. That is it is a little disconcerting. I know that we have bird problems here in Austin, but it's not crows, it's grackles.
It's what?
Grackles.
What are grackles?
Grackles? They're like crows, but smaller and more high-pitched.
Grackles?
Yeah, grackles.
I've never heard of a grackle.
They're the trash birds of Austin for sure. Like, they are actively very despised by everyone.
A grapple.
In,
Man, that sounds like a freaking like Frackle Rock. Grackle.
Yeah, it's a Grackle. You need to chill the hell out, dog.
Oh man, I know these birds. They used to have them in Sioux Falls. I used to always call them blackbirds though.
Yeah, they're around these pots. They're referred to as grackles, and that's their name as far as I was aware. But I didn't know about them before we moved here, and then we moved here, and I understand now why people dislike grackles because they're loud and quite annoying. One of the places we lived when we first moved here, I'd have grackles outside the window like every morning, just making all kinds of fucking noise. Not quite, not birds level like you seem to be having.
Well, I just remember in Bozeman, I used to have this berry bush by my window, and every single morning, the freaking magpies would like get to this big fight around my window. It's like, come on,
get the hell out of here!
Those birds, man.
That's too funny. What a weird twist for this podcast to take right near the tail end here.
Well, I because I'm talking to someone right now.
Yeah, you wanted evidence that this bird thing is happening.
It's weird, and it just started to happen, and it's just kind of strange. And it's like this dude who's just randomly feeding them peanuts, and he's bringing like this weird crow like thing upon an pox upon my homestead. Like, it's weird. It's very strange.
That's the type of thing that would drive my dogs crazy, because Ramona in particular, she is obsessed with chasing squirrels and birds when she sees them.
Is it okay? A pox isn't a word. What is the right word? A pox.
I mean, it's not. I think pox. No, pox is totally
a pox. Okay.
Yeah, like just a pox.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's not a pox. It's just pox.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm just getting like smallpox and chicken pox when I put that. Anyway, I'm glad I could get that off my chest, Matt. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad you could too. I'm glad we could put that to bed. That you will one day turn on the camera for this podcast and be swarmed by birds.
Yeah. It'd be
particularly gross.
Yeah.
If at some point in a recording session I notice that there are feathers poking out of your collar, I'll know that's not actually Nick.
Okay.
A swarm of crows in a trench coat pretending to be.
We need to end this, but I just want to say something.
Yeah.
Kirby Air Ride. But I just came in because the bird, right? Like whenever the bird came down, you like were taken over by like just
it's the bird.
bloodlust to kill this bird.
Oh, that's funny. There is not a single mention of Kirby on this entire list.
Well, for some reason, people were talking about Kirby Air Ride on Reddit, and everyone was bringing up how much they loved that city trial. And it was like they played it for hours with their friends. And I just remember doing the same thing with you. And I guess we weren't the only ones that like loved Kirby Air Ride.
Well, yeah, because
in that city trial.
Nintendo like has never really properly implemented like an achievement system. Like broadly for all their platforms, but like individual games will have their own like achievements you can get. Because do you remember that we would go for the BAMs, bam, like pop on screen, right? Yeah. Like so you have to like complete certain objectives to unlock like all these nodes on this screen. And I remember that time very fondly. Yeah. Kirby Air Ride. Well, and that's exactly why you loved because the trial, like single player mode in the 3DS version of Super Smash Bros. For 3DS.
Right. I mean, it's essentially the same exact thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly the same thing.
Side scroller fighting game. I didn't like it as much as City Trial. Like I played City Trial with you for like hours upon hours, and we would just and play that game.
It's purely entertainment. It has like no end goal. There's like no real. It's just mini games. You like you find the car.
You hopefully find a car, one that you like, or car. I mean, whatever you would.
I mean, we called them cars.
Okay, I mean, we'll say they're cars, and then you power up, and it's just something weirdly satisfying about it.
Oh yeah, well, because you might have a ton of stats that you may not have wanted,
Yeah.
but you might end up doing a mini game that like calls for strength or something, and you
Right.
like accidentally beefed up hardcore on strength. Normally, it's like speed was the key, right? Because most things were
Yeah.
races.
Well, I always love that one vehicle. I know which one. You know which one I
Yeah, I know
like.
exactly. It was like
I don't.
the hedrons.
Yeah,
Like
and you could like stop.
it would
It's
just like go in a straight line and then stop. It
right.
would like it could only go in straight lines.
I love that though because it's so cool. And when you got the speed power ups, you were just go.
Yeah,
It was
just were like
amazing.
off like a rocket.
That was I love that game.
That's so funny. This has been a lovely trip down memory lane.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of topics this time.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the longer episodes as
Yeah.
a
Well,
result.
we didn't really talk about much about TV shows, which was kind of refreshing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice. Well, I would like to talk about video games more, and maybe we can get some feedback from people. You, the viewer, can let us know if you want more video game talk. Um, it would kind of be a bit of a bit of a split thing here because I play video games religiously on a very regular basis, and Nick doesn't so much, not so much anymore. But doesn't mean he's unqualified.
I
This means
play
he's a
quite a
unique
bit.
perspective.
Excuse me, Matt. I'm
You're
an
gonna say
avid
Animal Crossing.
solitaire player.
Solitaire.
I'm known to play a little bit of Sudoku on my phone once in a while.
I do have a Sudoku game for the Switch, and that is quite relaxing in the evening. But
Yeah.
anyway, the Sudoku is still a video game. It just has to be on a video platform. But that being said, I think we should bring this podcast to a close here. Unless you do you have any closing thoughts?
I guess not. Yeah. It's always an enjoyable experience having this weekly conversation with
Mhm.
my friend Matt, and I'm ready to wrap this baby up. You know, like let's bring her in.
So weirdly formal. No, no, I want to thank you all for joining us today on this episode of the Nerds of the North podcast, episode 35. Next week, we'll probably be talking about Boba Fett again. It'll be another episode. Hopefully, I'm not a dumbass and get caught up on Peacemaker, so we can talk about that a little bit more in depth. And then, I don't know, maybe we can talk about some more video game stuff. If there's any interest, some buzz in the comments about video games or wanting to hear about video game talk from us, we'll see if that pans out. But
yeah,
at any rate, thank you all for joining us today, and we will talk to you guys in the next episode next time we record.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And this very special number 35 atomic number bromine episode.
Ridiculous.